President Trump has said that he threatened Putin with a strike against Moscow if it invades Ukraine. He said this in his interview with the Wall Street Journal. Here, Mr. Roman, I have a question for you. Is this more about the military or political situation? And in your opinion, why does Trump make such statements? Is it connected exclusively with the elections, conjuncture, and so on? Also, how can Putin react to such statements? The chosen struggle in principle uses all forces and means to fulfill the task of reaching the final, not just in the final to become the winner. That is, it includes such political moments. It is a political statement, understandably, but it probably took place at least at a certain time. In trying to get out of this situation, Russian talking heads like Peskov today ineptly tried to smooth over this serious problem for Moscow. This is a serious problem indeed, and such a statement probably really nailed Putin to the table, making him unable to even stand up, let alone step up. The statement that there will be a strike on fucking Moscow is a serious statement. Peskov tried to explain that they would not discuss this kind of statement, citing the secrecy of certain negotiations, which just goes to show that there were, indeed, such statements. Тайну некоторых переговоров, это как раз говорит о том, что действительно именно такого рода заявления не были, и Путин к ним отнесся очень серьезно. Потому, так сказать, следующие заявления... Putin took them very seriously because the next statements that may appear also already, without even announcing them, hit Putin's reputation and Moscow's reputation as a state. Thus, Trump, fulfilling his political task, trying to raise his rating, positioning himself not as a sympathizer of Moscow and Putin, has created big problems for Moscow itself. It will take a long time for them to recover from this blow. If the American people elect Trump, Moscow will likely understand that they are not afraid of such statements. This statement emphasizes that solving problems, including the Ukrainian one, is quite realistic, even without action. Roman, but there is also a reaction from the scandalous deputy head of the Russian Federation's Red Base, Dmitry Medvedev. He said that U.S. presidential candidate Trump could not possibly threaten to strike Moscow in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Medvedev said in a commentary to Russian propaganda media that if such threats were real, then, according to him, Russia's ruler, dictator Vladimir Putin, would respond with a strike on Washington. І при цьому він зазначив, що американський політик не міг погрожувати ударами по Москві в переговорах з Путіним, оскільки він як шовковий. At the same time, he pointed out that the American politician could not threaten Moscow with strikes in the talks with Putin, because in his opinion, this is a propaganda story, which they use almost constantly. They did not talk to each other. Peskov said the right thing, and Medvedev is trying to resolve the issue with Peskov, including him. They are now going into such a polemic, trying to somehow remove Putin from this kind of statement, because there will be a lot of questions for him. And Trump, knowing himself, can confirm his statement sometimes even by actions. The Wagner PMCs, which at one time were hit by American weapons, which were used very quickly, are very well aware of this. Трамп подтвердит, зная Трампа, допустим, он подтвердит свое заявление, иногда может подтвердить и действиями. Это очень хорошо на себе испытали ЧВК Вагнер в свое время в Сирии. Trump can do this even with Wagner's forces at that moment. This lack of anticipation on the one hand and impulsiveness on the other does not allow Putin to calculate the situation. For example, he miscalculated Biden, understood Obama, and played games with them, which in the end led to the situation we are in now.
которые привели, в конце концов, к той ситуации, в которой мы сейчас все находимся.
This may not be the case with Trump. His lack of leadership could derail all of Putin's plans. Medvedev is trying to manage the situation on all fronts to help Putin, not Trump, and shield him from political pressure. Now, Romani, let's discuss the claim that Russia and Eastern countries are using information propaganda in the Pokrovsky region, as stated by Oleksiy Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Center for the Prevention of GAA.
Або історію про те, що прапори Росії та Північної Кореї нібито повісили в Покровському напрямку елементом інформаційної пропаганди. Про це запевнив
Disinformation.
керівник Центру протидії дезінформації про РНБО Олексій Андрій Коваленко.
According to him, the Russians are scaling up the DPRK issue and will use it as fear propaganda against Ukraine. Roman, why do you think the Russians have started to talk about the history of the DPRK? How effective can this be? And how can the history with soldiers change the course of the war and affect the battlefront? No, they do not scare anyone. This is for internal consumption. Such information is directed at Russian citizens. Recently, unfavorable news for Russians and Putin has emerged as neighboring countries are turning away from Russia and withdrawing from its influence. Kazakhstan's President Tokayev has refused to join BRICS, and the BRICS meetings in Kazan are now ahead. In this context, this is in fact a blow from Tokayev to Kazakhstan, on which they were counting heavily. Moreover, China has certain levers of influence on Kazakhstan. But Tokayev nevertheless found the courage to refuse to join BRICS. This is a serious blow to Russia's ego, especially Putin's. That's at a minimum. Then came up with some mechanisms to refuse the trip. This is the same Brazilian leader. And it's also a blow to Putin. BRICS will not have at least one of the founders and a presumed candidate. This means that for Russia, it is a departure from certain positive aspects associated with the same BRICS, with the holding of this meeting in Kazan.
Пытаются натянуть сову на глобус, то есть натянуть северокорейскую момент этот из нескольких тысяч северокорейцев, натянуть, прикрыть эти негативы.
They are trying to smooth out this negative by putting an owl on the globe. That is, trying to present a moment with a few thousand North Koreans to cover these negatives, while no one is really talking about thousands, hundreds have been seen. But even if there are thousands of North Koreans, we just won't notice them in terms of military pressure. The only time when there will be really no questions or problems, but when we need to respond in terms of military action, is when there will already be brigades, that is several brigades of 10,000 and beyond. So far, that is not seen anytime soon. Even if there is a certain period of preparation now, even if the North Koreans start preparing now for the maximum number of their troops to come to our borders, they will come out in numbers that are already dangerous for us, or at least in such a way that we would notice them, not before spring, i.e., half a year at least of preparation should be required in order to withdraw tens of thousands of troops. Still, the information flow is for some political moments, but I have already told you about some of them. We have correctly and competently started to use it, because the presence of the North Korean country on the territory of Ukraine gives us the opportunity to request from our partners approximately the same mirror actions. Several countries, the leaders of the Baltic states, the same France, and a few other countries, are ready to articulate this.
Наличие солдат уже регулярных войск третьей страны на территории Украины, это дает нам возможность запрашивать у наших партнеров примерно такого же зеркального действия. Давно уже несколько стран, руководителей стран Балтии, той же Франции, еще несколько стран готовы, они уже артикулировали это, готовы были отправить на нашу
They are ready to
территорию
send some military units to our territory for combat tasks, but it's being slowed down.
уровня тыловых боевых задач, сопровождения, обучения и так далее и тому подобное, тормозит Белый дом, тормозит некоторые структуры натовские, вот именно это движение. Потому у нас есть сейчас аргументы. И россияне, получается, нам помогают в этом, пытаясь прикрыть свои проблемы для внутреннего потребления.